The Green Agenda is the cause of much of the flooding in this country. And if they don't get this right, the government, they should not be in office, because we can't have people losing millions and millions of euros worth of property. I've been talking about dredging rivers when I was in the local authority in the Cork County Council. The importance of it. I saw one area in Ballylickey in Bantry where houses were flooded, and no dredging taking place. For begging local authorities to get funding from government and get the approval from government to dredge our rivers. If you dredge, you have to clean our rivers. If you don't, water has to go somewhere. And it's the same no matter where it is. And I'm not saying it'll cure all, but it certainly will cure 80 to 90% of the problems we have in this country. If you look at all the rivers today, they're all blocked. They're all blocked everywhere. And they haven't got a machine in there. For some people will tell me, and the older people, especially the wiser people, will say to me, that river hasn't been cleaned for 50, 60 or 70 years. We need to clean our rivers so that the rivers can take the waters and flow gently and flow freely. But at the moment they're not. And what's happening is the rivers are full with every kind of muck as such. And it's when a flood comes, water has to go somewhere. Up over the river, break the bridge, down into the town, destroy the town, onto the roadways. My neighbours at this present time, when I was sent a video the other day, were out the other night, 3 or 4 of them, trying to clean drains. So the local authority has been starved. Minister Ryan has been told that he's not giving enough money to roads. The local authority is starved of funding. Drains are blocked. Water is staying, obviously, on the roadside when drains are blocked. That didn't happen when I was a child going to school. There was no roads blocked because there was roadside workers, an efficient amount of them. Now it's just 2 or 3 here and 2 or 3 there. They need to invest. We need to invest in roadside workers once again. We need to invest in machines, putting gullies, clean our gullies, and make sure that the water leaves the road like it ever did into the river, and the rivers run free. What happens over the years, there's a build-up of silt and there's a build-up of everything inside the river, and that's quite understandable. That over years, what happened long ago was that maybe the farmers allowed clear a certain part of the river because they were the wise and the custodians of the ground. But now there's laws preventing, because there might be some little thing in the river that might be a little fish or a little goldfish or whatever. And that's fine. Nobody wants to hurt or do any damage to any kind of wildlife that's there. But at the end of the day, the destruction these laws are having on people's homes, people's lives, people losing their lives, their property, their homes, they're broken hearted. Insurance won't do payouts. All these people are suffering severe, and unfortunately our government has the eye on a completely different ball, because it suits the narrative. It suits them to have towns flood. Sadly it does, because they can shout about climate action instead of saying, well, 6 months previous we cleaned that river, and you put a machine in there once every 10 years might do the job, and you clean the river and you clean out the silt, and you might even build up along the edges, and you might build a stronger river to take the flow of water. But instead, the rivers are full, and when the water is full, it's like a cup of water. You can't put a cup of water into a cup that's already full. It has to spill out and go somewhere else. The Green and the activist groups are objecting. They're objecting all over the place. Especially what annoys me is objections in areas that they don't live. I have no idea what they're doing, only just throw in an objection because they know it will be listened to, instead of the will of the people and the will of the majority of the people being looked after, and the people's property and their homes and their vehicles, whatever, being looked at, and their lives being looked after. We have an objector maybe from the other side of the country throwing in an objection, and he can block, or she can block, the whole area of rivers that need to be cleaned initially. And I think in one of the areas that were flooded in Cork recently, I was told it was a mattress. So it's obvious the river wasn't cleaned out. So a mattress made its way, should never have been in the first place, but it made its way down the river and it blocked the pipe. And the water has to go somewhere, up and over and down onto the town. That's where it went. The Green Agenda is the cause of much of the flooding in this country. And if they don't get this right, the government, they should not be in office, because we can't have people losing millions and millions of euros worth of property. I see that they're now putting in new compensation schemes for people in Middleton and beyond. I asked for that last year when we had the same situation in Bantry and other places. They wouldn't. They just gave us pittance 5,000 or whatever compensation. Now they're after waking up and realising that's not good enough. It isn't good enough, because when you lose, you damage your property. 50,000 is nothing to do with a house. Maybe have to get rewired, new doors, windows. You don't know how much damage, flooring, the whole thing. So a lot of these this funding would not need to be in place at all if they had initially invested on the cleaning up rivers. And I can walk throughout this country. Every time I drive, I say, look, that river's full. And then when the water is low, you can see why it's full. You can see it full of silt. bellying up over onto the top of the river. Eamon Ryan and Paul Murphy can dream all they want because they're Dublin-based TDs. And it's very easy for me. I can't go in and make a comment really as such of what goes on in Dublin City. I know what goes on in rural Ireland. I was born and reared there. And all my neighbours know. And everybody that's flooded, 99% of the people are saying the reasons are our rivers are blocked. Get out and do work. Our reason is the roads are blocked because there's no more funding for roadside workers. And Eamon Ryan, Minister Ryan I should say, he's smug and delighted that he's cutting his budget for roads because he wants to punish Irish people. That's his way forward, punish Irish people. But we see where the punishment leads. It's either death on our road, which the Roads Authority said recently because of a lack of his funding, or else flooding in our town. So Paul Murphy and Eamon Ryan can speak till the cows come home. They haven't any understanding. If they lived any month or two inside in rural Ireland, they'd really get a jump reality and a true vision of the disruption that they're leaving by their inaction and by their dreaming up about climate action and forgetting about what can be done to resolve quite a lot of these problems is costing this country dearly.